Yes guys, welcome back to another video. It's been a minute, but I'm back. And in today's video, I'm going to be speaking about what separates players at the highest level, at the elite level, because it's clearly not a skill issue. Don't get twisted, some players are better than others, but everyone at the highest level can play. Everyone is very, very good at football. So what is it that actually separates the elite players and makes others better than some? Now, before I get into the video, I have to let you guys understand who I am and what I do. So what I do is I ultimately work with professional footballers, helping them elevate their mind so they can elevate their game. And I've worked with players at Brentford, at Reading, at Chelsea, players abroad, players in Canada, all sorts of stuff. So I've worked with them, I've helped them, and we've seen some great results. So if you truly want to elevate your mind so you can elevate your career, listen to this video and take it in properly, because these are the things you have to understand that would seriously get you to the elite level. Now, the first thing that through my study and through looking at players and understanding how the mind works, that I've realized that separates players at the elite level is self-image. And like I said before, at the elite level, players do not have a skill issue. It's not a skill issue that is causing the problem. It's not a skill issue that causes the massive gap between some players and other players. What it is a self-image issue. It's a self-image problem. And you have to understand that you can elevate no higher than how you see yourself. If you see yourself in a certain way, then that is the ceiling and the cap for all you can achieve in your career. And what I mean there is that ultimately, if you are a certain player and you believe that your game is capped to a certain standard, you think you can only do certain things, then you're never going to be able to do anything else. And what I mean there, let me give you an example on the pitch so you can understand it. Cool. Let's say we have a player who receives the ball at the edge of the box. One player is shooting and potentially scoring. The other player is second guessing the shot and probably passing it. Now, we all know that every single professional footballer can shoot and hit a top bins normal. It's not even a thing. But when it comes to a match, how come some players hesitate? How come some players don't take the shot? Why do they pass? While others don't hesitate. They just shoot, score. Why is that? And it's self-image. The player that doesn't shoot doesn't see themselves as a player that can score from there. Do you understand that? Their self-image doesn't align with the player that shoots from there and scores. They second guess it. They don't believe in themselves. The way they see themselves at the core isn't that player. That's why they opt out for the easier option. They pass. They don't take that shot because it doesn't align with who they are. And you can see it in every position in the game. You can see it everywhere. You can have a winger who receives the ball but doesn't take on their player, goes back, recycles. But deep down, they might want to take on the player, but because their self-image doesn't align with the player that takes on their man, beats their man, gets a shot off, gets a crossing, they're not going to do it. They're going to always hesitate. They're going to always second guess it. And these things happen at the highest level of the game. I've worked with professional footballers, and trust me, they have the same doubts, the same problems as someone playing Sunday league, someone playing non-league. It's all the same. There's no difference. Like, these problems exist throughout all levels of the game. And yeah, man, it's honestly, it's a self-image thing. If you can work on your self-image, everything will change. And when I mean self-image, and when I mean work on your self-image, what do I mean there? I mean, Your self-image has to align with the player that you want to be, not where you are. That's the problem, because I know deep down you know what kind of player that you want to be, but when you step onto the pitch, you don't quite execute in the way you want to. You go back into your old ways of second guessing, doubting yourself, playing it safe. And that is because you have to change your self-image. And the way you do that, like I always say in my videos, begin thinking from the perspective of the player that you want to be. How do they think? How do they think about football? What do they think is possible for themselves? How do they think about themselves when they step onto the pitch? It's all these small things. Once you begin thinking from the perspective of the player that you want to be, only entertain thoughts that that player would have. Would that player entertain doubts? Entertain doubts? No, they wouldn't, because they know who they are. You have to begin aligning with the player that you want to be now. That's the only way you're going to become that person. That's the only way you're going to become that player. Begin embodying that player that you want to be. Become that person that you want to be now. It doesn't matter if you're not currently playing to that standard yet, but the more you're able to embody the thinking, the mind state, the state of being of this player, and you repeat this sort of thinking day in, day out, it's going to become who you are. And what's going to happen when you step on the pitch? You're going to feel confident. You're going to start taking the risk. You're going to start doing the things that you know you deep down want to do, but were scared to do before. Understand? So that could mean you're taking that shot. You're beating your player. You're getting that crossing. You're not doubting yourself. You're not recycling. You're taking them on 1v1. You're doing it. You're doing it. You're doing it. You're taking those risks. You have to repeat this stuff over and over again. And another thing that separates certain players from certain players at the elite level is self-approval and self-knowing. And this is something that I've seen from working with my clients, is that a lot of players base the way they feel about themselves on other people, whether that be their coach, their teammates, fans. Most of the time it's their coach. You you wait to feel good about yourself when you get praise from your coach. You're waiting for external factors to give you approval when it should be self-approval. That is the difference. The players that are constantly elite and are always up there in the game have got self-approval. They approve of themselves. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about them. They know who they are. They know what they can do. They believe in themselves to the max, no matter what's going on around them. That is the difference. Certain players are looking for approval from the outside, while the top elite players get approval from within themselves. And that is the most important approval you can ever have. Why? Because when you approve yourself, other people will approve of you. That's how humans are. If someone steps into a room and they're confident, and you can feel the confidence, you can feel that they know who they are, you're going to treat them as such. The opposition will treat you as such. So it might not even be a thing of you're playing amazing on the pitch, but when there's a player who is super confident and they live in their confidence, you respect them. And I know you know what I mean. Because I know you faced a player who isn't that good, but he's extremely confident. And that confidence overrides his skill to a certain extent, to the point where you respect him more. You give him that respect, which allows him to play his game. So once you step into that self-approval and self-knowing of knowing who you are, that is when everything changes. Because like I always say, reality is dictated by your internal state. If you know you are a certain way internally, you believe in yourself, you know you are that player, you know you are that guy, things will shift around you, because reality is a mirror of your internal world. You understand that? And something that I've seen as well is that a lot of players also let football dictate them. And what I mean there is that when they're going into training or going into a match, they will base how their game is going to turn out on the first moments in a game. For example, if they start the game shaky, then that sets the standard for the whole game. They're now going to have a shaky game the whole time. But if they start good, they're going to have a good game. And that again is allowing the external to dictate you. You cannot let the external dictate you. It has to come from within. It doesn't matter how you start the game. Because if you know within yourself that you're going to have a good game regardless of anything, then you have now opened the door of possibilities to having a good game. But if you believe that if you start poorly, you're going to have a poor game, that's it. Simple as that, you're going to have a poor game. Stop letting the external dictate you. That is what separates the elites from the good. It doesn't matter what's going on around them. They know they're going to have a good game regardless. And we call a lot of these top elite players clutch. Why? Because all it takes is one moment in football for everything to change. You can have a rubbish game. You can have a terrible game. It doesn't matter. But if you score that goal in the last minute, people don't care how you played. They care that you won them the game. And that is how football is. There's moments in football. So it doesn't matter. You can play terrible for the whole flipping 80 minutes. The last 10, you come alive. You win the game. You score a hat trick in 10 minutes. You know? So it doesn't matter. Don't let the external dictate anything. You dictate yourself by walking into the correct internal state, by thinking correctly, by thinking from the perspective of the player that you want to be. You understand that? And that is how things shift. You've at least opened the door of possibilities for things to go in your favor. Now, the last thing you have to understand is that the potential is already within you. You already have that potential within you. Stop thinking you need to do a million things. You need to train extra hard to get to this level. That potential is already within you. You just need to tap into it with your mind. Begin thinking from the perspective of the person who has tapped into their potential. Stop creating the separation between you and where you want to go. Oh, I need to train harder. I need to do this. I need to do that. No. You begin, you step into this person by thinking from the perspective of already being that person. That is how reality changes. That is how your career will shift, because what you have now done is that you set a solid foundation of who you are. You've become the person and the player that you want to be internally. Now, what you do is you begin taking the correct actions that align with that person. It's not about chasing who you want to be, it's about becoming who you want to be internally, then taking the correct steps that will bring that to you in your reality. And you now do that by eating correctly, training correctly, doing the correct things. But don't think that the training alone is going to get you there. You have to be that person first, and then you take the actions. Do you understand that? You have to be that person first, and then you'll take the correct actions naturally. You'll naturally know what to do. You'll naturally want to train correctly. You'll naturally want to do the right thing. But the problem is that too many players are chasing this. They're chasing this rather than becoming this. If you talk to any elite player and break them down mentally, you're going to understand that they are who they want to be right now. And they were who they want to be. And they were who they wanted to be way before they became it, way before the world showed it to them. They were already that player internally, long before the world proved it to them. And that is how you need to be. Walk into the shoes of already being that player, because the potential is already within you. You tap into your potential by tapping into your potential mentally first, and then you take the correct steps in the physical that will bring you there. And that is how it's done. That is how it's done. Self-image separates the good from the elite. And if you begin working on your self-image, you will become elite, because that is law. That is universal law. You can elevate no higher than you believe you can. So step into the shoes of the player that you want to be. And that's how it's done. Now, if you're a professional footballer and you seriously want to take your game to the next level, if you want to tap into your true potential, then message me on Instagram at T9LevUp and we'll get to work.